It's good.
It's gone? Oh, got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All righty, so good afternoon to everybody. The council will begin today by voting on appointments to our city commissions and boards. This will include 2 communications from the mayor submitting Carlos Silvestri for appointment as a member of the New York City Tax Commission and submitting Deborah Scotto for appointment as a member of the New York City Environmental Control Board. The council will also vote on a recommendation from the Brooklyn Borough President submitting Joseph Dueck for reappointment to the New York City Planning Commission, and on our own designation of Robert Nolan for reappointment to the Health and Hospitals Corporation's Board of Directors. Next, we will also vote on landmark status for the interior of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel and for 2 buildings on the stretch of Montague Street in Brooklyn known as Bank Row. Councilmember Levin, representing the Brooklyn Landmarks, and Councilmember Garodnick, who represents the Waldorf Astoria, unable to join us today, and thank them for their support on these designations. Beginning our legislative docket, the council will vote on multiple items regarding residential and hotel building conversions. Introduction 1586, sponsored by Councilmember Richie Torres, would extend it by 2 years the limitations placed on the conversion of certain hotel space for purposes other than use as a hotel. The bill would also require the preparation of a supplementary hotel industry report that analyzes the impact of the industry on the economy of the city, with specific attention toward analyzing and addressing any impacts hotel conversions have on the availability of quality jobs for city residents, something that the prior report did not do. Councilmember Torres is unable to join us this afternoon. I know how important this legislation is to him, and I want to thank him for his work on this bill. Intro 1218A, sponsored by Councilmember Vincent Gentili, by request of the Brooklyn Borough President, would increase the penalties for illegally converting residential space to contain 3 or more dwelling units above the amount legally allowed. And introduction, 823A, sponsored by Councilmember Idanis Rodriguez, would require the Department of Buildings to submit an annual report to the City Council on the rate of illegal conversions of dwelling units for purpose other than permanent residence. I know Councilmember Gentili is here, and Councilmember Idanis as well, who has joined us, and Councilmember Helen Rosenthal, thank you for being here. We'll start with Councilmember Gentili.
Thank you, Speaker Mark Favorito. Intro 1218A would help stem the proliferation of the most egregious illegal residential conversions. For subdivisions that are 3 units or more over the certificate of occupancy, a $15,000 fine would be placed on the owner for each of those illegal subdivisions. And to ensure remediation and payment of the violation, the fine will constitute a lien on the property. So if unpaid for 1 year, the lien can be sold by the city. And the bill contains a one-time exception for owners that reasonably did not know of such conversion and who promptly take steps to correct the condition. In addition, Intro 1218A would equip the Department of Buildings with the tools necessary to obtain an access warrant where it is unable to gain access to a building where it suspects an aggravated illegal conversion has occurred. And for the record, this bill penalizing aggravated illegal conversions, that is conversions of units 3 or more above the certificate of occupancy, will not impede the efforts to legalize and standardize grandma's basement. Instead, Intro 1218A roots out those unscrupulous landlords who gut and partition entire buildings for maximum profit with no concern for tenant safety. All in all, this bill will serve as a strong deterrent on the front end and, if needed, a strong enforcement tool on the back end to combat aggravated illegal residential conversions. It'll set the precedent that substandard housing is not affordable housing. I'd like to thank the Speaker, Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, Councilmember Williams, the Chair of our Housing Committee, Councilmember Grudenchik, and all my colleagues, as well as the civic and advocacy groups that have supported our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Idanis?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the Speaker and my colleague here for working together passing this PACO bill legislation. You know, illegal conversion is definitely affecting many communities, especially those communities that is going through gentrification. Illegal conversion is also used by illegal hotels, and we believe that it is important for the council to have access to this information to be sure that we can put together the right policy on how to work with the sector. Anyone that would like to do a conversion, they should do it by the book. They should do it legally. and anyone who is doing illegal, they should be subject to penalty and accountability from the council and from the whole city of New York. So with that, thank you.
Quédate ahí mismo because you're coming up again. We will also hear from Councilmember and Transportation Committee Chair Rodriguez, once again, as he is prime sponsor of Introduction 1285A, which would require the Department of Transportation to prepare a report by June 1st, 2018, relating to pedestrian activity in 6 locations with significant safety and traffic flow concerns. Councilmember?
Well, again, thanks to the Speaker, the body, and the administration, DOT commissioners for being working with us in these initiatives. We are working very hard to be sure that we put everything in place to improve the safety of pedestrians in New York City. And with this and many of the legislation, what we hope is that we are able to complete other tools that we need to be able to reduce to zero the number of pedestrians that they've been killed in our city. We are committed to accomplish that goal by 2024, reducing to zero the number of pedestrians being killed. And with this initiative, we feel that we are adding additional tools so necessarily for the city to have.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Idanis. And we've been joined by Councilmember Combo. Ashley and this young man, I'm sorry, your name again? Raywell? Okay, well, Emmanuel. They're both doing the foster care shadow day. You're shadowing different members and stuff. I want you to join us up here just so you get the feel of, you know, you're up here with us. You can come on this side so that we even it out a little bit. All right? So following up on the pedestrian studies, and we just referenced Introduction 1177A, sponsored by Councilmember Helen Rosenthal, would direct the Department of Transportation to prepare a report by August 1st of this year regarding the feasibility of implementing Barnes Dance pedestrian interval crossing systems at high crash intersections. I had not known what a Barnes Dance,
Well, you're about to learn.
now I know. So yes, Helen.
Shibuya, baby. So I'm very pleased that the City Council will vote today on my Barnes Dance legislation. What is a Barnes Dance, you may be asking yourself, and why does passing this bill matter? You know, in New York City, 1 in 4 crashes that kill or injure a pedestrian happens when they're in the crosswalk. So imagine this, a pedestrian is crossing the street in the crosswalk, they have the light, they have the right of way, but they're struck by a turning vehicle who fails to yield. This bill requires that the Department of Transportation issue a report on the implementation of crosswalks with a pedestrian exclusive signal phase. And this includes what sometimes is called a Barnes Dance. I recently visited the largest Barnes Dance intersection in the world, in Shibuya, Tokyo, where 2,500 pedestrians cross the street at the same time. 2,500 people who are waiting to cross a very busy intersection. All the lights are red. No cars can move forward. Only the pedestrians cross the street. And it is a wild thing to experience. But since Tokyo implemented that mechanism, there have been no crashes that have resulted in injuries or deaths at that crosswalk. So, since my first day in office, street safety has been a top priority. On the Upper West Side, we've simply had to face too many tragedies for it to be anything less. Through Vision Zero, we've made some important improvements over the last 4 years, but we need to set our sights on truly safe streets to reach zero fatalities. And the Barnes Dance would do just that. This bill challenges us to think bigger, to unmake the mistakes of 50 years of car-exclusive street design. We're putting pedestrians back where they should be, in control of the streets. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Idanis, I think you chair the committee and
thank you, Chair.
Yeah,
lead sponsor,
thanks.
co-lead sponsor.
Thank you to all.
Yeah, so I've been honored to be a co-lead with this bill with Council Member Helen Rosenthal. And one thing that I learned working on this bill is about Henry Barnes. And I didn't know that he was the person responsible to bring the bus lane in New York City. As also, he was the one that came out with that idea, and that's why this idea has been named after Henry Barnes, because he was in 1964 that commissioner that had a vision on how to make the life of pedestrians safer in our city. So as my colleague she has said, what we are looking to do is to separate the time of pedestrians and vehicle drivers. The time is here. It's been happening in Canada. It's been happening in London. Already in New York City, I just got an email yesterday by Liz Reader, one of my constituents in England. She said, working with DOT, we were able to install barns dance in Cabrini Boulevard and 181st, and we have seen how crashes has been reduced in our community. This also has been happening in Margaret Chen District. So there's few locations where bands done has been implemented, it's been working, and this is so important, so critical. Imagine 47th Street up road in Times Square, where we separate the time for pedestrians and vehicle drivers. It will make a big difference, and pedestrians will be feeling safer than ever.
All right, commercial bicyclists operating on behalf of a business or intermediary organization are subject to a number of safety and record-keeping requirements. These laws currently only apply to commercial bicyclists classified as employees. Introduction 1117A, sponsored by Majority Leader Jimmy Van Bramer, would amend these laws to include commercial bicyclists who are classified as independent contractors. Councilmember.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So it was 5 years ago in 2012 when this council passed Local Law 52, which was a bill that I was proud to sponsor, that now everyone takes for granted when we see delivery bicyclists wearing yellow reflective vests that have little identification tags on the back, wearing helmets. That was because we passed that law in 2012. I'm really proud of that bill that I authored and that we passed, because it makes the bicyclists safer and more visible, makes pedestrians safer, because keep in mind, many of these folks are delivering your dinner at night, sometimes when it's raining and it's hard to see them. So this is part of our Vision Zero effort. But with the rise of Uber Eats and Amazon and Seamless, there are a lot of people delivering important goods and your dinner, but they're not protected because they're classified as independent contractors. So Intro 1117 would change that to make sure that all of those bicycle delivery men and women are trained and are having safety courses conducted by the DOT as part of their job. They're also going to be provided reflective vests, helmets, and signals and brakes and bells on their bicycles so they can be safer and that everyone else in the community can be safer as well. So it's a good, common sense bill that will keep our bicycle delivery men and women safe and also allow all of us the convenience of ordering in on a dark and rainy night, but very, very important that we protect all of these workers every single day, and that's what this bill does. So thank you very much.
Next, the council will be voting on Introduction 518A, sponsored by Councilmember Donovan Richards, which seeks to ensure that consumers are aware of any recalls associated with a used car by requiring secondhand automobile dealers to disclose recall information related to automobiles, parts, or equipment to purchasing consumers. Councilmember Richards.
Thank you so much, Speaker. I'm proud to stand here today to ensure that secondhand car dealers are honest with their customers when selling a vehicle that has had a recall. We've all heard stories about people who've had the misfortune of buying a lemon, or what we would call a hoopty where I'm from. Buying a vehicle can be a very exciting time for someone, but nothing can crush that excitement more than having a vehicle break down due to a serious flaw that had not been disclosed before you purchased the vehicle. We are here today to provide protection for consumers looking to buy a used vehicle. With the passage of Intro 518A, secondhand automobile dealer will be required to disclose required information, recall information to consumers when selling automobile parts or equipment. This disclosure must be signed by the purchaser and retained by the dealer for 5 years. This bill would impose a $1,000 fine for a first offense and a $1,000 fine or imprisonment for a second offense, and suspension or revocation of a dealer's license at the discretion of the commissioner for any additional offenses during a 3-year period. Once again, this council is standing up for those who've been taken advantage of. Today, this legislation will ensure that when dealers are held accountable when they withhold vital information that can affect a consumer's decision or put lives in danger. I'd like to thank our speaker, DCA Commissioner Salas, Chair Espinal, the Consumer Affairs Committee staff, Balkis Mahiring, and Israel Martinez, and my legislative director, Jordan Gibbons. Thank you.
Okay. 2 more pieces of legislation. Strong stormwater management practices are required to reduce the flow of pollutants into New York City waterways. Introduction 1346A, sponsored by Environmental Protection Committee Chair Costa Constantinides, would provide the New York City Department of Environmental Protection with the authority to implement and enforce stormwater management practices that are needed to comply with the state-issued municipal separate storm sewer system permit. With that, the chair of the committee and the sponsor of the bill, Costa, will say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And waterways are our greatest natural resource. Look at our rivers. They're not only our arteries for a new ferry system, but they're also home to rich marine life and an entire ecosystem. Although we may not see the water every day, we cannot forget how important it is to our environment. Most of our sewage is transferred to the wastewater treatment plants located throughout our city. However, when it rains, some of the sewage is carried from our streets into our waterways after being treated and disinfected. As we continue to expand our knowledge of ecosystems, we will meet stricter regulations that ensure safety and health of our waterways. Intro 1346 ensure that our city oversees and enforces activities that have the potential to contribute to pollution in our waterways. It provides our city a legal authority to implement a stormwater management program to meet new requirements of the municipal separate stormwater sewer permit. This program will reduce pollution in our stormwater that reaches our waterways. It will find and control litter and other sources of pollution from entering our waterways through a separate sewer system. The program will include stormwater runoff from commercial and industrial activities, runoff from active construction sites and newly developed sites, as well as detection and elimination of illicit discharge. DEP will coordinate interagency efforts to meet the requirements of the MS4 permit. I'm especially proud that we require city agencies to consider the feasibility of green infrastructure, such as permeable pavements, to any major capital project that is being built. Protecting our waterways from unnecessary environmental hazards will benefit all marine life and our entire city. So again, I want to thank our speaker, our mayor, and all my council colleagues for supporting this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Costa. Finally, the council will be following up on an initiative first announced in my 2017 State of the City address. Intro 1028B, sponsored by Councilmember Lori Combo, would create a sexual health education task force comprised of a minimum of 9 members, including experts in sexual health education, high school students, Department of Education staff, and at least 1 specialist in the field of LGBTQ and TGNC health education. The task force will review information about the current recommended sexual health curriculum and the implementation of sexual health education in DOE schools, and submit a report of their findings to the mayor and the council by December 1st of this year. Comprehensive sexual health education for students of all ages is imperative to raising healthy and informed adults. This council remains committed to providing our students with an extensive and age-appropriate education that remains inclusive of their needs, and I believe that this bill will go far in tailoring city sexual health education to the lives of students, to the lives our students live today. So I want to thank Councilmember Lori Combo and congratulate her on her pregnancy for her work on this essential initiative, and I would like her to give some remarks on this bill.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito. And I am also joined by my shadowies today. If they could come and join us on either side, that would be awesome. Lauren and Brianna, please come up. This is such a fantastic and historical day for so many. I'm so proud because I was excited. That's right, on both sides. There we go. I was excited when Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito spoke at the State of the City, and she spoke so passionately about the importance of sexual education for our young people. This is such a breakthrough because we as a city have to educate the entire child, the whole child, academically as well as their reproductive and health. We have to make sure that we're giving them all the tools to make the best decisions for their lives because, as we know, so many of our young people are making very adult decisions in their childhood years. And it's important that we give them the tools so that they can make the most educated decision about their life. So I just want to recognize across the city of New York, youth ages 12 and under, as I stated, are making mature, life-changing decisions about relationships and their sexuality based on peer pressure and misinformation from mass media. When we just think about what young people are watching and viewing on television, on the internet, on their phones, the level of access that they have, if we don't have and utilize the tools to counter what they're seeing on an everyday basis, we're going to continue to see a lot of them face challenges unnecessarily. As the prime co-sponsor of 1028B, I am proud that this bill will bring us one step closer to charting a new course for youth of all ages and backgrounds to engage in meaningful conversations about healthy relationships, consensual sex, pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases, and sexual abuse. This is also very personal for me as well because in my district, I represent also Crown Heights and Bedford-Stuyvesant that continue and remain to have the highest reported cases of HIV and AIDS in the entire city. So I want to make sure that this impacts my district and the entire city as well. The task force comprised of individuals that represent a spectrum of beliefs and backgrounds, ages, various career level and life experiences, has the opportunity to infuse new ideas and voices to create an educational tool that celebrates the diversity of New Yorkers, particularly those who identify as LGBTQIA that live and thrive here. Sexuality is much more than sexual intercourse. It is about developing a healthy self-image, your identity, gender roles, learning how to express yourself as well as your boundaries. And I want to thank Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito for your incredible collaboration of this piece of legislation. I want to thank all of the advocates, including the incredible organizations that are part of the Sex Education Alliance of New York City. And also, I want to thank my two dynamic shadowies that are here today. Do you all think this is good legislation?
Yes.
All right. Thank you all so much, and thank you for this opportunity. We're making history, and we're making our student body that much stronger and that much more powerful and that much healthier in today's society. Thank you.
So I'm gonna, come up, stay here. I wanna put these young people on the spot a minute. I want everyone that is here, why don't you give us your name, your age, what grade you're in, and then I would like it to, I know Ashley spoke outside, but I'm gonna put you on the spot, Emmanuel. When you speak, you're gonna speak last. Just tell everybody why you're here today, okay? All right, so go ahead, what's your name?
My name is Lauren Moody. I'm 17 and I'm in 11th grade, but I'm graduating in June. So.
All right, 11th grade, all right. Where are you going to school? Okay, what's the name of the school? Tell us. Oh, okay, all right, go ahead.
So my name is Brianna Hayes. I'm 23. I'm no longer in the school. Why am I here today? I'm here today because failure isn't falling down, it's staying down. So I remind myself to stand up for me, for my peers, and for what's right.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and I am currently a freshman in Lehman College. My major is social work, and I'm here today because I want to emphasize the fact that we need to instill knowledge within our youth, and the more we educate them, the more opportunities they know to seek.
Hi, my name is Emmanuel Williams. I'm 19 years old. I attend Johnson & Wales University. My major is culinary arts, and I'm here for advocates for foster care.
Yes, thank you all. All right. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. So I'm just going to say a few words in Spanish and then we'll take questions. Hoy el Consejo Municipal votará por un proyecto de ley que establece un grupo de trabajo para estudiar la enseñanza de la salud sexual, algo que pedí durante mi último discurso del estado de la ciudad. El Consejo también votará para darle autoridad al Departamento de Protección del Medio Ambiente sobre las prácticas de manejo de aguas ocasionadas por tormentas y también para exigir transparencia en los llamados a revisión de vehículos de segunda mano. El Consejo votará para extender las regulaciones del uso comercial de bicicletas a los contratistas independientes y para comisionar un informe que investiga la viabilidad de implementar el sistema peatonal de Barnes Dance. Además, se votará sobre la legislación para incrementar regulaciones en contra de las conversiones peligrosas de propiedades residenciales y de hoteles. Y por último, se votará sobre nombramientos a 4 comisiones y directivas de la ciudad y para otorgarle designación histórica a los interiores del Waldorf Astoria y a 2 bancos en Brooklyn. With that, I will take questions. He was calling. Okay.
Madam Speaker, I wanted to get your thoughts on the ongoing situation with Commissioner Pond. I wanted to ask you specifically if you still have confidence in him, considering you are in support of this ban to post Rikers, and if you think he should step down.
You know, we had the hearing the other day, and I do believe that Commissioner Pont should step down. Obviously, there's just been a lot that has been going on in the agency, and I think that it's demonstrated that it's compromised, right, the ability to move forward, and I think that he should consider that seriously at this point.
Madam Speaker, this is a follow-on, Commissioner Pond. Commissioner Pond lied under oath at the City Council hearing about why he thought it was okay to take his car out of state. I wonder if you think he should be brought up on charges.
I know that this has been indicated. I know that I am having the staff look at it. There seems to be some back and forth, but definitely I know that you and others have been saying that, so I definitely will take a look at that seriously in terms of talking to the staff about it. But I can't speak to that directly at the moment.
Going to the City Council and lying about the central issue about why he thought he should be able to take the car out of town. My question is, does it go to the ability of the City Council to do its charter-mandated job, which is to find out what's going on? And are you, I know you're looking at whether he should be brought up on charges, but are you also, as the Speaker of the City Council, concerned that he lied outright to the
Well, I mean, you're saying he lied. I know that there is some statements from staff that counter what he said. Obviously, it becomes, you have to look into it, into what's being said. I cannot speak to that directly at this moment because I have not had a chance to look at what the statements that have been said that counter the commissioner's position. We, under my leadership, have implemented the oath for each of the committees, that commissioners and anybody that testifies before the council do swear under oath. That's something that had not been done before, and so we obviously take very seriously, and the expectation is that anybody that comes before this council, which is doing its oversight authority, particularly during budget hearings, that we get an honest answer and that we get the truthful information. So that is the expectation, and we take that very seriously. I had spoken to the mayor about this issue, and I have communicated today my position. I believe that Commissioner Pont should not be leading the Department of Correction.
How do you feel about the fact that the mayor and the correction commissioner have not read the Litman report? Is that ridiculous?
Have not what?
Have not read the Litman report. The mayor said it's not central to his life. Obviously, it's central to Pont's life if he's charged with helping the corrector. How do you feel about that?
Well, I would have expected that the report would have been read by now. I mean, we put a lot of effort into it. Obviously, I convened that independent commission. The independent commission was made up of volunteers. They all gave of their time to an issue that is extremely serious. Now, obviously, the culture of violence on Rikers persists. I know there has been a lot of reforms put in place, and so that work will be acknowledged. But obviously the role of the commissioner is going to be to shepherd that along in terms of the decision to close Rikers Island. So the fact that it hadn't been read is disappointing. A lot of people put effort and time into that and gave of their expertise in service to the city of New York. And so I would hope that it would be taken seriously.
Just to follow up, do you think the mayor really wants to close Rikers Island?
Yes, I do. And I will work hand in hand with him. I mean, obviously, I have a limited amount of time, but we are looking aggressively, really digging into the commission, looking at things that we can do in the council to, move along some of those recommendations. And, I was on a panel earlier this week where I indicated that 10 years, I know it seems a long time to people. Anything that we can do to move that process along and make it a shorter window frame, of time, I would definitely am interested in doing that with my colleagues.
Just if I can push my luck with one more follow-up. The governor on Friday said 10 years is too long, people are suffering, speed up the timeline.
Look, closing down an institution of this magnitude, of this size, is not done overnight. You have to build a capacity and the infrastructure in order to take people off the island, right? We're making a lot of progress on the reforms of looking how we can downsize the population. We've taken a lot of measures in this council to really look at that. A package of bills that we heard recently on reforming the bail process. Obviously, the issues that we've talked about before about how certain low-level offenses are looked at as opposed to a C summons, looking at it from a civil summons perspective. A lot of work that I think all of that is going to come together and is really going to move some of this along, and I'm really excited about that. And I think, I'm excited about the work that we've engaged in this council and the leadership we've taken, and I'm going to leave with a great legacy on this front. And I'm going to continue, right, to be invested in moving that timeline along. I would like to see it be shorter than 10 years, of course. But we have to build the infrastructure in order to be able to take people off the island, and that's not in place at the moment. So it's going to take a little bit of time.
What did the mayor say to you when you said that Pon should step down? And then is he also thinking of moving forward, moving potentially past Pon and closing Rikers? He's been saying for a while now that he's going to meet with individual council members to open up or to plan the land use process to open up facilities potentially. Wondering if that's started at all.
We have, that's obviously something that falls under our purview. So I will be talking to my colleagues as the speaker and the leader of this legislative body on that end. We already have on record, right, relevant council members that represent the areas that the commission identified, the idea of putting the local neighborhood facilities within, right, the footprint or near the local courthouses. So the council members that represent all those areas have expressed, majority of them have expressed support for that. So I think that that's great progress. I believe on record, I think the Rikers campaign was saying that about 26 or 27 members have officially supported the commission's findings and the efforts to close Rikers. So there's already, we had a briefing with Lippman last week and members of this council who were very engaged. So we are moving that along, and definitely land use is critically important. If we're going to build the infrastructure at the local level, there has to be some level of land use designation in order to do that. And so that's something that we are looking at the moment.
And what did the mayor say to you when you said Pon should step down?
We spoke earlier, a couple of days ago, over the weekend, around the issues that had emerged regarding the commissioner. And today I communicated to his office that my position publicly would be that he should step down. I'm not going to respond to that.
So just to clarify, did you say it to him personally, or you said it to his office?
I communicated it to him.
So you didn't say it to him personally, to be clear. I'm not trying to get you, I just want to make sure that we understand what you're talking about.
I will talk to you afterwards.
Okay, and the other question is, what was it that made you come to this decision? What was the straw that broke the camel's back for you?
Look, it's been all the reporting, right, and the conversations. I expressed the minute I heard some of the reporting over the weekend, I expressed my concerns to the mayor with regards to my lack of confidence and my concerns that were raised, and that I wasn't completely swayed by some of the positions that the commissioner was expressing. And I told him that I would let him know once I arrived at a finite position as to what I would be calling for with regards to the commissioner. So I've arrived at that point.
What was the concern? Can you elaborate on your concern?
I mean, look, many, right? The issue of the personal use of the car, the fact that he is out of town during critical moments in time when we really are dealing with a very serious issue. I think there seems to be a lack of leadership and the lack of confidence within the agency. Those are real, genuine concerns. And so for me, those are the things that had led me to this point. So I've been, been grappling with it for a couple of days at this point.
Speaker, one on that and one on something
I have confidence in our mayor. I support him. He is a colleague in government. We're working on the budget. We've had a good relationship in moving a lot of policy issues of concern forward, and I will continue to do that. And along the way, we have differences of opinion, right, on decisions or on policies, and that will continue to be expressed. So on this one, you know, I definitely do have my concerns. I don't believe, I mean, I want to thank the commissioner for his service, and I think that there are things that he has been able to implement. Obviously, we continue to see the issue of violence is pervasive. Closing down the institution is one of the reasons that we want to really, closing down Rikers is critically important to really address that, to start changing the whole culture that exists within Rikers, but also within the training of corrections officers, et cetera. So there's a lot of work, and I want to give him credit for his service, but I think at this point, his leadership is lacking, and there's lack of confidence, I think, within the agency, and as such, I think that the best thing in the interest of this city would be for him to step down.
Quickly on the budget, the first executive budget hearing sort of reiterated this tension between the council pushing for a bunch of new funding for various agencies and projects, and then also saying the mayor's not putting enough aside for savings. Can you address that tension? I mean, how do you sort of justify that the council's pushing for all these added investments, but also saying we need more savings?
You can do both. I mean, you know, or look at finding savings, right? We talked about that in this past budget hearing where I was at, and talking about aggressively, right, mandating that agencies, instead of voluntarily looking at things, maybe aggressively looking at, especially since we're a little bit heading into an uncertain time with the federal government. And maybe we do have to set some benchmarks for agencies to look at that. And then some of that could be set aside for additional savings, but also reevaluating what our priorities are as a city and looking at maybe reinvesting that money in other areas. And that's what always the budget discussions are about. We have a set of priorities, which sometimes may not be completely aligned. Some of it is aligned with the mayor, and we may have a different set of priorities. So that's where we are right now. Obviously, we have until the end of June to finalize the budget, but there's a way of doing both and being responsible in that way. And we've been lucky and very lucky in the city, although we are seeing some slowdown. We still are having economic growth, but we want to be responsible in what, how much we want to continue to grow the budget, and that's what the conversations are about. And I mean, look, let's be clear, we have historic savings in terms of we've done incredibly well in comparison to other years of putting money in, and I think this council has really led the way on that, and we're going to continue to say that. I think we can go further, and to build a little bit of a cushion in case, you know, it's a crazy time we're living right now, really crazy, particularly with what happened last night. So we really have to be thinking a little bit proactively in that way.
On the hotel conversion bill, what role did HPC play in getting the council behind it?
We already had discussed this bill, right? We're looking at it now, and as I indicated, clearly looking at it from a jobs perspective, something that the prior report didn't aggressively look at. You know, the jobs that hotels provide are high. I mean, these are solid middle-class jobs. And we know the crisis that we have in this city with the shrinking middle class. And we need to create balance. And looking at the perspective of what the impact is of these conversions on the shrinking of the middle class, on the elimination of quality jobs, that's something that we should take very seriously. So it is an opportunity for us to now aggressively have this report, supplemental report, look at it from that perspective, something that we hadn't done. And so we stand behind that. You know, we want these kinds of jobs in our city, and losing 1,500 jobs, you know, I believe already, if I'm not mistaken, is of concern. So that's what we're looking at.
Why pass a bill before you have a report on it?
We're passing the bill to allow time for the report to give us time to do the report, and to put a temporary hold while we do that. Why take the risk that we're going to continue to lose jobs, right? So we want to take a pause and allow us to give room and look into that more aggressively, and then revisit what we do from there. We need that moment, yeah. Is it going to be the last one?
Given that, you know, the Conflicts of Interest Board has called for the termination of employees for similar offenses to what Con did with the travel, I mean, do you think this is fair that he's been allowed to remain in this position up until this point? I mean, it's clear that he committed offenses very similar to what people were terminated. Why
I'm indicating my position. I don't believe, and that is one of the things that factored in it, that we don't want to create double standards in this city, clearly. Again, I want to thank the commissioner for his service to the city of New York. But yes, that is a concern, that we don't create double standards.
I mean, do you think, though, should be a very complicated decision for the mayor? I mean, it's
You have to ask the mayor his thinking. I've expressed my position, and I've told you exactly why I believe that he should step down, and he should not be leading the agency anymore. I will not divulge any conversations with the mayor. I'm sorry? Yes, I do. Yes. Well, I'm indicating that I don't think he should lead the agency anymore, therefore, it should be someone else.
Can I just ask you one last question? Do you think, we've seen several examples of this already, where commissioners are either not delivering on what their job is supposed to be, and the mayor has consistently stood by that.
Aye.
Do you think
Yeah.
the mayor has a problem here in terms of keeping people accountable, and does he give people too many second chances?
I mean, you should ask him that question. I've stated my position, and I think that in saying that I think Commissioner Pont should step down, it's indicating that I don't have confidence in his leadership any longer.
About the sex act.
I like this. I like this.
That was very spicy.
Because if it was me, listen.
She has great, what's the word? She knows how to take care of
poker face?
Yeah, she has a great poker face, and then she also knows how to take care of like counter arguments and like stuff like that.
I would love to do something like that. Because I got opinions. I'm not like Mayor de Blasio.
So would you rather be the one asking the questions or the one talking, answering the questions?
Answering the questions.
Okay.
Because Mayor de Blasio gotta go. I'm sorry. All y'all tax dollars. Do you know that? That he takes all y'all. Let me not say that. I'm saying like he.
She's silly.
From what I hear is that he took all the tax dollars, Mayor de Blasio, and I forgot what he did. Like he did something that was like against the law. But I guess when I was outside, some lady was like, "Oh, he got cleared for it." But I just feel like